Okay, welcome one and all. This is a bit of an odd situation because normally I can see everybody and point to everybody, but needs must, so we're just getting on with it like this. You may notice the title of my talk, which is Tenants Rule, Landlords Drool, but is that the situation in reality? So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to go through things that you can do to try and stay on top of your let. But before we do that, let's just briefly say who we are. So I'm just going to quickly play you our 60-second video if you've already seen it. I'm Peter.
Hello, I'm Gary Waller. I work on the helpline.
I'm Lisa.
Hi, I'm Vash.
Hello, I'm Rodney.
And I'm Beth.
And together we're iHowz, the not-for-profit trade association for landlords. We have many people also who can help you.
Hi, I'm Ed Feeney from Trip on B&Q. I'm here to help you with all your DIY and maintenance needs.
Hi, I'm Jenny Brown from Mortgages for Business, and we're delighted to be working with iHowz and their members.
Hi, I'm Steve Cox from Allen Boswell Insurance Brokers. We're here for all your insurance requirements.
We can help you with our helpline, our regular news updates, our meetings, whether they're online or physical, our documents, our training, our newsletter, and much, much more.
I will see you soon.
Hope to see you soon.
See you soon.
Right, so apologies, there's a bit of a delay on that, but iHowz are all about keeping you up to date. That is an example you can see on the screen now, is an example of last week's news update we sent to members. It actually went on a bit longer than that. And as you can see there, it's just basically clicking on its headlines there. You can click on one, it'll take you on to a longer piece that you can read at your leisure. So going on to why we're here, that's just giving people 3 or 4 minutes just to get in. So it's entitled Landlords, Tenants Rule, Landlords Drool, or do they? It's a partnership. It's a partnership between the landlord and the tenant. And in your opinion, do you think you've got one person who's more dominant than the other, or the other way around? Well, in the ideal situation, this is what you want to aim for. But you want to be really, really careful not to aim for this.
It's chaos in the rental market.
They're crooks, they're running a scam. When am I going to get my money?
As Britain's landlords lock heads with the tenants from hell. Behind every door, a nightmare tenant.
I'm here to go through these lens.
And nightmare story.
To get rid of something.
New series, Nightmare Tenants, Slow Landlords, continues Monday at 9 on Channel 5.
So you really do not want to end up in that kind of situation, or even worse, of course, on the actual show. So you just want to make sure that you're trying to avoid that as far as possible. And our tips really for a basis for a good let are 4 really basic things, which is, and this is based upon the kind of questions that we get on our helpline on a regular basis. And this first one is quite frequently that you want to build and maintain a good relationship. Even if you've got the tenant from hell, you need to maintain that relationship, because so often it's when that relationship breaks down that things start to go wrong. And the best time to do that is before you even offer. So before you even think about offering to a prospective tenant or tenants, then you need to do all your due diligence. And I cannot stress this one enough. That again, so often people will just sort of wing it a little bit. Then they realise that it would have taken them a day or two, or even a week or two at the beginning to get it sorted out correctly. But to wind up a bad tenancy agreement can take forever and cost a lot of money. So that one is absolutely critical. Think about doing an application form and getting lots of information as quickly as soon as you can, right at the outset, particularly things like the national insurance number. That's always useful, because if you need to trace anybody, you can do it with the national insurance number. So ensure you do your due diligence if I can say it. And think about insuring. You can insure anything these days, so I'm told. And you need to make that inquiry. Hopefully you've got the standard landlord insurance, but you can get rent guarantee insurance, you can get some kind of deposit guarantee insurance. So whatever it is, just look to insure it. But really, perhaps the thing that we find most on the helpline, the thing that breaks down most of all, is communication. It is really, really important that you keep communicating, keep talking. Again, even if you've got the tenant from hell, you need to keep that communication going. If a tenant comes to you and says, I've got a problem, and you don't think they've got a problem, then please do try and sort it out with them. Really, really important that. Otherwise, you can have all sorts of problems. So the basis, I think the basis for a good let is relationship. We've already said that. Build up a good relationship. Ensure you do due diligence at the outset, and take out appropriate insurance, and keep talking, because it's all about that. Rent, not rant. Okay. So moving on, it's worth remembering that the majority of tenants, when they've done surveys, the majority of tenants are satisfied with where they live. So this is an English housing survey done. It's a couple of years ago, but whenever they've repeated these kind of things, always comes up with similar sort of answers, which is that the majority, in this case 84%, but the majority of tenants are more than satisfied where they live, and a lot of people, whether they choose to live like that or not, they're quite happy with it. And when we get all this doom and gloom from shelter and crisis and whatever, then just remember, be prepared to tell them that. So we're assuming that now you've gone through everything and you've got yourself a good tenant because you've checked them out properly, you've done your due diligence, you've done referencing, you've got all the information you can on your application form. And again, obviously, iHowz do application forms and do all the documentation. And you start off and everything's wonderful. So you want to make sure you keep on top of everything that's going on. So I thought I'd take you through quickly the changes that come out just this year alone, because you may or may not know about them. So the one that comes up an awful lot are evictions. So from August the 29th, and if you're watching this on repeat, today's the 3rd of November, it may or may not change. You do need to keep on top of this because it's changed several times during this year already. So for any evictions from the 29th of August, there's two types of evictions, which hopefully you're aware of. There's the old Section 21, now confusingly called a Form 6A. Originally, this is a 2-month notice. And then for a period of time in the middle of the year, it changed to become a 3-month notice. And then it changed again. It's now a 6-month notice. We're told this is a temporary thing and that at some time next spring, it will change. But we don't know. We really don't know, because they're also talking potentially of getting rid of the Section 21 altogether, which will have huge ramifications. So that's the Section 21. You can still use it. The Section 8, which confused is called a Form 3. The main reason that people want to use it is for rent arrears, which is grounds 8, 10 and 11. You've got this confusing situation here that if it depends on the length of the arrears as the length of the notice. It's not changed in that the arrears have got to be at least 2 months long, 2 months in arrears before you can even raise a Section 8. But once they're 2 months in arrears, then until they get to 6 months in arrears, the Section 8 notice for grounds 8, 10, 11 is a 6-month notice. If they still stay there and they're still not paying rent and it clocks over 6 months, then any notice issued after that would be a 4-week notice. So our recommendation is to serve it twice. So if someone gets to 2 months in arrears, you serve the Section 8 as normal, there's a 6-month notice. They continue for the next 4 months not to pay, as an example. So they then become 6 months in arrears. So you really serve a new Section 8, which is now 4 weeks. It's all about keeping people informed of what you're proposing to do. As a slight aside, some of the other changes are for antisocial behaviour, it's now a 4-week notice. For domestic abuse, depends exactly how you do it, but it's between 2 and 4 weeks notice. A false statement, and this is why it's really, really important that you do an application form at the start of the tenancy, because if someone knowingly gives you false information and you offer accommodation on that basis, then there is a ground under Section 8 for evicting them. And it's really, really important. But I would hope that, again, going back to the due diligence, that you've done as much due diligence as you can from the outset, and you know that the information you've been given is correct because you've checked it out. I'm just sorry to keep stressing that, but that is the time really to get it right. And right to rent, if they breach the immigration rules, that's a 3-month notice. I'm going to talk a little bit more about right to rent in a couple of minutes. So some other changes still with evictions. This is at this moment in time because we don't know what's going to happen after the lockdown. We've really no idea at all at the moment. We wait to be told. But as before Saturday night, when Mr. Johnson made his announcement about the new lockdown, and therefore we assume the courts will be closing, for any notice, no matter how far it's got, served before August the 3rd, 2020, you have to serve a reactivation notice and with a copy to the tenant. You may know, as people that know me, people who've been on my training course, I tend to talk about one landlord, one tenant, because it just makes life a lot easier. So you serve this reactivation notice, send it to the court, and also send a copy to the tenant. If you don't do a reactivation notice, by the end of January next year, 2021, that case will be permanently stayed, permanently dropped. So it's important that you do that reactivation notice. It's, I think, just to attempt that where notices have been started and whatever reason the person has left, or the landlords agree to continue with the let, but you know they've decided they're not going to go ahead with the case. So it's trying to weed those out. So it's really, really important that you do that. The courts are also, they've been talking about bringing in mediation for quite some time. Social landlords have had to go through mediation for quite a few years now, and the Housing Secretary was strongly recommending, but only recommending, that private rented sector landlords also follow the social mediation package. And again, it was being pushed out to people. That seems to have stalled a little bit at the moment. But what they're doing is if you decide to reactivate a case, then you will get notice to join a conference call with the courts, where everything has to be laid out. And at that call, they will attempt a bit of mediation, but it will also be decided whether or not they can go ahead with the full case. So this is to try, again, save a bit of court time. There's a lot of talk about this becoming permanent. Now, all this procedure is for anything happened before August the 3rd. So even if you'd started, even if you got a court order, even if you got a bailiff's order, no matter what had happened before August the 3rd, you need to reactivate it. Now, there was a lot of talk with bailiff's order that all the areas in a tier 2 and tier 3 were being given advice not to for the bailiffs not to go out and discharge their orders. It's been suggested that this is unlawful, and we don't know what's happening about that at the moment. Again, we have to assume that bailiffs will not be operating for the next month or December till December the 2nd. But again, we've not been given information on this. So this is the reason that you need to belong to a landlords association, preferably ours, to keep up to date on this. So other changes, so still on evictions, this is really, really important that you need to make sure that you've asked your tenant, let's put the next bit up, right, there we go. You need to make sure that you've checked with your tenant that they're not short of funds and therefore not paying some or all of their rent because of COVID. So it's really, really important, that one, because as it says there, if you don't ascertain this, that even the Section 21, which is the so-called no fault eviction notice, but we tend to call it the no fault given notice, then you will not be, it will almost certainly get thrown out at court, and courts are very, very keen on this. So when we've been giving advice on the phone to people where they ring in to us and say that they've got a tenant who's in arrears, the advice has always been the same since March, end of March, which is you need to ask them, are you short of rent because of COVID? And have you, Mr. or Mrs. Tenant, done everything you can to try and mitigate that? So if you try to do everything you can to get some money in somewhere, because it's unlikely that a tenant's going to be receiving absolutely nothing. They hopefully will have been furloughed, or they may have self-employment funds. It will be unusual to get nothing. Unfortunately, we're getting a lot of tenants who are hiding behind this and who are basically saying, well, you can't evict me, therefore I'm going to hide behind this. It's worth pointing out, as it says there, hopefully you can see this, that it is unlikely but not impossible that tenants are never receive any funds. And you can, if you want to, you can go for a money order. So you can still go for that. So it's really, really important to keep a good eye on your tenancies. It always has been, this year in particular. I'm amazed again on the helpline how often people do not keep a regular eye on their tenancies. It's not a good idea. I keep stressing this. So often again comes up on the helpline. Communication's broken down. No matter how bad your relationship is, do keep communicating. You must be sympathetic with genuine hardship cases and assist where you can, but be firm. If you've got tenants who are not trying to help themselves, or even worse, take advantage an awful lot, then, be firm about it. As I said before, don't forget that you can, although you might be a bit stuck in being able to evict somebody, if you've got a tenant who is working, who is getting funds, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't continue paying their rent, especially if this problem went back before March, before the end of March, then you can say to them, well, look, I can't evict you, but I know you can pay, and I can still raise a money claim online, which potentially, Mr. or Mrs. Tenant, could end up with you getting a county court judgment. So, it's not a threat, it's just a statement of fact, because it is just not fair. You should be paying, you're not paying. So, be sympathetic with genuine cases, but be firm with ones where they're taking advantage. And then a few more changes which came out this year. Right to rent. You still have to check every prospective occupier. That's over the age of 18 or 18 or over. And don't fall into the old trap. A lot of people say that people are not on the tenancy agreement, therefore you don't have to check them. You have to check occupiers. So you need to make sure you do that. There were some temporary rules introduced. You can do it over video now, whereas previously you had to see original documents. You can now get scanned documents using email or mobile app, and there's an online checking service which will help you. So and I managed to go all this time without using the B word, but just be aware we are leaving Europe at the end of the year. You might think, well, therefore, as at January the 1st, anyone with an EU passport will automatically lose their right to remain in this country. No, the law was changed at the beginning of the year so that anyone with an EU passport is acceptable to June the 30th next year, after which we're told there will be new rules. And of course, nobody, least of all the people writing, have got any idea what that's going to be. That, I suspect, will be part of the negotiation process which is going on at the moment. So we wait to see on that one. Again, do make sure you keep up to date. Do make sure you're being told about all of this. Another couple of changes. Hopefully you're aware of something called the minimum energy efficiency standard, which basically says that any property you've got with a rating of F or G, as from April this year, so the last, whatever it was, 6 or 7 months ago, it's been illegal to let a property out with an F or G rating. And you've been warned about this for quite some time, and you've been given quite some time to do something about it. There are exemptions, and one of the principal exemptions is that if you look at an EPC, you've got a current rating and a potential rating. If they're identical, that is a reason for an exemption. So do make sure you get the exemption. If you don't, it's illegal to let it out. Note that although it's a minimum rating of E at the moment, it will increase. So the talk at the moment is that it'll be a C by 2030. But there's a private members bill going through Parliament at the moment that's trying to telescope this from 2030 to make it closer. So you need to make sure now you read your EPCs. If you can do work on the property to improve it, you need to do it. You must do it now. Electrical safety, from next April, all rental property will require proof of electrical safety. Now, a lot of people have read this to say you need an electrical installation condition report in EICR. It could be you've got something else which shows. So if you've had a complete installation done and you've got some kind of completion report, that is quite acceptable. We have had some agents saying it's got to be an EICR, electrical installation completion report, condition report. No, it doesn't. It's anything which shows that the electrics in that property are fit for purpose and tested by someone that's allowed to test them. The only thing is the installation report could be a 10-year report. It's got to be less than 5 years old. So, you know, if you've got an older installation report, you might have to get an EICR. So these basically are the changes so far. We've got 5 minutes. So if you want to copy these slides, please do email us. And then that's us there. Now, I don't know if anybody's got any questions they want to ask, because we've got 5 minutes to take questions. I have to confess, I'm not entirely certain where I will see the questions on this, and I'm hoping that somebody technical will tell me where I can see the questions, because I can't at the moment. If not, as it says there, please do contact us, info@iHowz.uk, or possibly ring us, but it would be much, much better if you can do to email us. So I hope you found that useful. And it's just a bit weird sitting here waiting for questions and not seeing any. So one of the questions that has come in, I'm aware of, is what's happening with the courts after the lockdown? Well, the truthful answer is we don't know. We are assuming, because the last time we had a lockdown, although it was more severe than this time, we are assuming that the courts will stop to function again. It's a bit of a shame because they've had plenty of time to do this kind of thing, video technology. So, you know, we wait to see. Bailiffs, again, we assume they're not going to be working, but do take the advantage that if you look on our website, iHowz.uk, on the news section, you'll find that there is a solicitor, David Smith, who's done a lot of work with landlord associations in the past. He's willing to do a no-win, no-fee judicial review against the government about this advice to bailiffs, because it's generally thought that this advice is unlawful. And it was given by the Justice Secretary, Robert Buckland, and it was done as advice. So it wasn't done as a, you must shut down. So they were trying to avoid people being evicted during a difficult time. However, that's great for the tenant's point of view, but it's not really a lot of good for the landlord's point of view, especially if you've had a long-term rent arrears. Because, you know, let's say you had a bailiff's order March the 23rd, that probably would have been going on at least 6 months, at least, if not longer. That's now sat there since then, so that's another 6 months. It could easily be sat for another 6 months again. So we're saying you could easily, without any difficulty at all, end up with arrears of 18 months, which is just not fair, and you will never get that back. So this is why we do encourage landlords really to look to take this on, you know, to support this judicial review if they can do. Obviously, we're assuming that, again, like the last lockdown, that if you're the Justice Secretary has stated that there will be he's encouraging the market to continue. So, and I'm just trying to find on our website where we've got this. So I'll put this onto that. You should be able to see it there. So that's our website with the news section. And there you go. So let's just get that up. Whoops. So I can't find it. So you can see the sort of amount of news that we've had over the last few days. So there you go. So Generic is saying that people will be able to move. You can removal firms can operate. Tradesperson can enter homes, but follow the guidelines. So the thing that suggests, although it doesn't actually say it, that suggests if you want to continue viewings and the like, that you can do. So, but you do need to be aware of that. Now we've got 2 minutes to go. I presume I will just get cut off, but let me just, while I'm waiting, if I get cut off, then so be it. But so let's just go back and show you some of the news which has been in there. Interesting if we had a couple of things that some reports were saying that some landlords were looking to expand their portfolios. A lot of reports were saying that some were actually looking to reduce them. Rent arrears could easily go up. So there's a report about a mass exodus. So we wait to see. So, and there's more and more. So, all right, that's my half hour done. So thank you very much. I will leave you with that. As I say again, please do make contact with me. I'll look forward to hearing back from you. So bye for now.